off all of my devices.
Welcome to Obsessed, where Mika, Tia, and I challenge the thoughts that limit you, where we provide the tools for transformation. Be prepared to be swept away into the raw power of obsession, unlocking secrets and stories behind the insatiable hunger for growth and change. This is more than just a podcast. This is your story. It is a manifesto for those who refuse to settle, who dare to dream, and who are relentless in the pursuit of living a great life. Get obsessed with your life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Obsessed Show. Get obsessed with your life. We have an amazing guest, Rich Cooper, the Unplugged Alpha himself. So I've got Jules in the studio. And Rich, what are some of the things that you're obsessed with right now?
Oh, obsessed with completely is anything that goes fast. Cars, motorcycles, boats, planes.
Nice. Do you fly? By any chance, do you fly?
I don't have my pilot's license, but I've flown privately before a few times, yeah.
Okay, I'm looking for a new car, Rich. What kind of car should I get?
I mean, what kind of car do you want? Do you want a fast car? Do you want an economical car? Do you want an off-road vehicle?
A car that holds a lot of kids and not a van.
Okay.
Yeah, you're kind of out of luck there. You're definitely going to need something that looks more like a van.
We'll figure this out, Jules. Rich,
straight from the expert's mouth. Straight, a van. Okay.
You have such a very you've got a lot of opinions towards dating, towards life, towards the world we live in, and it's really interesting as I watch your content and like, wow, you have a very direct opinion and you've got people that share that also. How did you start to tell us your background, for our audience, tell us your background,
Sure.
Married, divorced?
Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur for quite a long time, actually, several decades, several successful businesses. Got tired of the last one that I was in around 2013 or 14, started to run its course, and I was looking for something else to do. So I started uploading to YouTube. It was around the same time that, so again, I was doing the exit in the business. I was untying the knot. I was getting divorced. I was also dealing with a new relationship outside of my divorce. So there were some wounds that I had, and there's that old saying, sometimes you need to make your wounds your work. And that's kind of like what I did with my YouTube project. Is I initially started to interview friends in their success rides. I called the YouTube channel Entrepreneurs in Cars, and we did 5 or 6 episodes, interesting guys with interesting cars, and I ran out of cool friends with cool cars. So I started just looking at the comments, and people were asking stuff like, hey, you should do a video on red flags or the kind of women that you might want to avoid in dating or something similar to that. And that's what sort of launched the channel into where it is today.
Wow.
Segueing into red flags. I mean, this is really, I think, and you are not someone that just is a wallflower that doesn't speak their mind. And the onus of your platform is about, correct me if I'm wrong, to help men not choose bad partners.
Yeah, making better choices in life is a little bit of a skill that most men are never taught.
What was your bad choice? And I'm not saying your ex-wife is your bad choice because you have a daughter, and you can never regret that at all. But what red flags did you see looking back with your ex-wife? And I don't know the onus for your divorce.
That was just a bad match, at the end of the day. But I think inviting the wrong people into your life, women on a romantic level, men on a business level, even friendships, will net you some pretty bad results if you go about it the wrong way. So it's, like I said earlier, it's a bit of a skill that you need to sort of square away in your head as a guy if you want to get better results out of life, because at the end of the day, the results that you get, the outcomes that you're dealing with are a direct result of the choices that you make. And I think that we live in a world today where people love to be a victim. It's almost like there's these behind the scenes oppression Olympics, and everybody wants to get the gold medal on who has been ripped off most in life. And
Mm.
I'm the ownership guy.
Interesting.
I'm the look in the mirror and stare at the man or the woman looking back at you and have a word with them about what you're getting out of life, because at the end of the day, it's their fault, nobody else's.
Totally agree. Yeah. And it's really interesting that you say the Olympics with the victimization, who has the most, wounds,
Mm-hmm.
not but it makes so it's interesting, like in your book, the Unplug Alpha, does it tell counts of like having people be accountable, like, hey, here's this, like the choices you're making in friends, the choices you're making in business, and having it is your book a mirror for these men?
I think a lot of guys at the end of the book will see it as a reflection of themselves, and there's many, many things in the book that they certainly identify with, that they sort of knew about. Probably sitting in their blind spot was sitting right beside them, but they didn't see. And it just requires a quick shoulder check to look over to see what you're doing and the choices you're making and the results that you're getting. It predominantly deals with women. It's a book for men. I dedicated the book to all the men out there today that grew up without a father in their life. But there's tone in the book around things like own a motorcycle, why every guy should own a motorcycle at some point in their life, getting into combat sports and why that's important, why you should hire slow and fire fast in all areas of life. But there's a lot
I
of
actually
advice
do
in there.
that in my business. I hire very, very slow
Hmm.
and I let go really.
Yeah.
Wow. So then every man should own a motorcycle?
I think at some
My
point every
husband has
man,
two, so he loves you already.
I think that at some point in every man's life, you should own a motorcycle. It teaches you something beyond just getting from point A to point B. It requires an extra level of dexterity to ride one of those things. There's balance required. Everything on the road is bigger than you, can kill you. It's exceptionally fun. It's a therapist. I mentioned in the book that I had one of my offices on the third floor of this old century home, and on the main floor there was a psychologist. And I sat there looking out my window while I was working for several years while we had the lease there, and I never ever saw anybody coming to get therapy that rode a motorcycle. Never, not once. And one of the things that I look back on in my younger years, I rode bikes for 12, 15 years, something like that, was that it was a therapist. It was a friend. It was something that you could work out horrible things that were going on in your life, whether it was things going on at work, in a bad relationship. Get on the bike, go for a rip, you square things away, you come back, you feel a lot better. So I think the notion of doing things that are potentially dangerous are slowly being eroded from the fabric of men today. Men are told to be softer, weaker, more agreeable, become less so others can become more. And it's a nice little inexpensive tool that puts a big smile on men's face when they finally get it.
Wow. I have two questions, but I want to first ask you, and this goes for both of you. Have you seen a video that's kind of gone viral of the raccoon?
No.
I don't know. Okay. All right. So then I'll segue into my next question. But before I do, I want to say
Question
it's a
number
story.
two?
Yeah. Have you seen it, Jules? The
No.
raccoon, the guy. So there's a video of a woman, a mom, the raccoon looks like is attacking her daughter. The daughter is like maybe 2 or 3, and she pulls a raccoon off her daughter's leg, and now the raccoon is attached to her as she calmly, takes her daughter outside of danger, and tells her to get inside, and then she rescues her daughter from the raccoon. And then there's another video that's gone viral of a father with his toddler, his 2 or 3-year-old boy around the same age. And so he picks up his little boy all excited, and then a raccoon, they're outside again, wraps himself around the father's leg. The dad throws his kid, and then the raccoon gets away. He throws the raccoon off his leg, and then later goes back to check on his on his on his son. The son is unharmed. Everyone is fine. Everyone's not harmed. But there's comments, as I was wondering if you both have seen it. There's comments saying, comparing the mom and the dad, because there's even a video, they've looped both videos into one, and there's lots of opinions. So I don't know which one is necessarily right. I don't think there's a right one, but there's opinions on, wow, the love of a mom and, well, love of a dad. And some have compared a dad to, I don't know, this you would probably say, Rich, a beta dad. I don't know, but it was really interesting. So I'll send you both that video.
Sure, I'll
But I
take a
think
look
our
at it.
audience has seen it. But they're putting this difference between, the mom's reaction, the dad's reaction. Rich, can you tell us about beta guys?
I mean, there's a lot of them out there. What do you want to talk about?
What is a beta guy? Because I didn't know what a beta guy was until I saw your content. So unless I've been living under a rock, I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know.
there's a spectrum across the scale, alpha to beta sort of thing, and you don't get to decide whether or not you're a beta or an alpha. It's sort of how society and culture looks at you. So, if women respond positively to you, you're probably not a beta. If you're getting negative responses from women that you're attracted to, you're probably a beta male, because women just aren't attracted to softer, weaker, compliant, more agreeable type of men. Although that's what men have been hearing, or that's what they interpret that women like, and that's generally how they operate. That's why you get these male feminists today, where they're strong allies, and they make themselves considerably less. They put themselves out there, and they hold themselves out there to be go along to get along sort of guys, right? The vast majority of men out there today, I think, as men and women are watching this, would agree are generally considerably softer than our parents and grandparents type of generation. It's not what society generally looks up to, but I think it's what is being molded as a function of culture, religion, Hollywood, sitcoms, movies. That's why we have a softer, weaker society. I think the state likes that because you're easier to control. Stand on your dots, wear your face mask,
I
takes these
agree with
experimental
that.
jabs when it's time to do so. They say jump, they say how high. They don't want you questioning things. They don't want you disagreeing with their agenda. So it's good for them. It's not good for us, the ones that are doing the work and putting a dent in the universe.
1,000% agree. And it's quite evident that we are in the trophy culture. Everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah,
You don't have to
participation
be good
trophies
at
get handed
anything.
out to everybody.
And I have 4 boys, 4 sons. So a lot of this resonates with me. What I find fascinating, so if someone's listening that is either in a relationship with a beta dude, or I don't know if this applies also to beta females. I don't really know exactly your theory on that. But if someone is with a beta man, well, what do you do? Do you just run from it? Because I'm going to tell you what, after I got my divorce, and I've been divorced once, I knew in my head, I need to be with an alpha male. I need to be with somebody who has opinions, has direction, makes a good living. He has 2 motorcycles. I mean, I should introduce you to my husband, because he'd be like, yeah, totally makes sense. And, I got what I wished for 1,000%. So, but I get that theory with the beta males. So where do we go with these beta males?
Well, the last thing that women want to do is explain to a man how to be a man, right? Nothing will turn off a woman faster than sitting down a guy that should just get it and explaining to him how to be the kind of guy that she likes. There's not much that you can do if you're already in a relationship with a guy like that. Women try all the time. They'll say, I want you to be more skillful in these areas. Why can't you solve problems? Competency problems that men would generally deal with, rotating the tires. I mean, most guys, today probably don't even know how to change a flat tire on a car. These are just basic competency skills that they would have either learned from their father, their grandfather, or even in some cases, school offered classes that dealt with basic stuff like that. But they're slowly being stripped away. Shop classes are being stripped away from the school system. Automotive repair shops are being stripped away from the school system. So that's why you have a generation of participation trophy kids out there today, where guys are generally soft.
Wow. So we have a soft culture.
Yeah.
on both sides. It makes
Not
a
my
lot of
boys.
sense.
My boys are out there digging ditches. They are getting their hands dirty. Sports. I mean, I think like being in sports. I know all kids and men aren't sporty, but there is something in terms of the team culture that cultivates that.
Well,
alpha.
it boils down to competition. I think that men need to compete. And when you give everybody a ribbon or a trophy that participates in a sporting event, there's no clear winner. And you need to have a clear winner, your second and third place, and then everybody else sort of thing, so that they know where they fit in the pecking order. There's always been a hierarchy. There's always been a pecking order. It's always existed. I think telling everybody that they're the same is exceptionally bad and a disservice to society and culture and relationships as a whole. But it is what it is, and that's where we are today.
Yeah. And then speaking of relationships and dating culture, what can a woman do to get a single woman who wants to date a high value man, get married, have a life? What are some of the things that you'd recommend for her? What are some of the flags, the green flags for women for dating?
Green flags that women should look out for. That's the question. Okay. Well,
wait, green flags or red flags?
Green.
Well, I think when women see what they like, they know it's just there. It's like taking a frying pan to the forehead. Like, you just feel it. It's obvious to you. You pine for the guy. He's obviously interesting. He's captivating. He's socially influential. People look up to him. Men want to be him. Women want to be with him. It's not something that you can really paint a picture and say, hey, be this guy. It's like, you just have to get it. You have to understand what masculinity is. We hear this term a lot today, like toxic masculinity. You hear marketers use the phrase. I remember Gillette got a lot of pushback a few years ago when they ran that commercial. There's a scene in the commercial where there was a attractive woman walking down the street, and this guy sees her, and he sort of like leans in and starts chasing her to make a approach, and he gets held back by another guy, and it's almost like you can't behave that way because that's toxic. But women want to be approached by the guys that they're attracted to. So I think that you just have to do what you want as a guy. Stop listening to narratives telling you to be soft or weak or more compliant and agreeable. If you're attracted to a woman, approach her and say hi. If you want to make a lot of money, go and get some. You want to put a dent in the universe and be influential, be that guy. But if you want to keep that guy, that's a slightly different conversation, because top shelf men that are doing all of those things and are getting the attention and the interest of the vast majority of women, because women tend to date across and up on the socioeconomic scale. They don't want to look down to a guy. They want to look up to a guy. They want to be with a giant, right? And there's very few of those guys, and all women are attracted to those guys. You have to be a valuable woman to a guy like that. The big mistake that I see women make the vast majority of the time is they'll say things like, Rich, I've got my degrees on the wall. They're framed in mahogany. I've got my Tesla. I've got my house. I have my lovely IKEA furniture, and it's decorated, and my throw pillows and all this sort of stuff. I make great money. Why can't I find a guy? And they've basically described all of the things that make men attracted to women. So the grand mistake that I see women make a lot of is they turn themselves basically into horrible versions of men. Men aren't interested in their degrees. There's no man that's ever looked at a degree on the wall and been like, whoa, that's sexy. Look at that thing in yoga pants. Oh yeah, it just doesn't happen.
Sexy degree in yoga pants.
Right, but what are men attracted to? Conventional cues of femininity: youth, beauty, curves, waist to hip ratio. Generally speaking, guys at that level, when you say high value man, they want a woman that's a complement to their life. They don't want a woman that's going to complicate their life. I think the whole boss girl narrative is a big disservice to women. There's no guy that wants to go out there and put a huge dent in the universe and do big work and be able to make it rain and acquire lots of money and wants to come home to a disagreeable, bossy woman. He wants to come to a place of peace, love, compassion, stuff like that. So understanding the differences between the sexes and embracing what makes women great and men embracing what makes men great allows you to get to a place where I think, you're better together than you are apart. But again, women hear a lot of, you need a man like a fish needs a bicycle, you go girl. There's very, very different narratives that men and women hear today.
Okay, so can I rewind to a lot of women, and Mika and I both, we are entrepreneurs, we're business women. Where do you see the balance? Because I understand what you're saying. When I grew up in a generation where girls were taught you can do anything. Now, there are some definite differences in terms of our genetic makeups. I totally understand that 1,000%. But so if I and Mika are entrepreneurs, we have personalities, we are strong in what we believe in, how can we live our best life with this alpha male that we want to be with?
That's a very long conversation because there's a lot of things that you got to contemplate, between men and women, because you're absolutely right. Women have been told you can have it all. And the vast majority of women today have more education than men do. One of the complaints women often make is, where are all the good guys? I've done what I've been told to do. I'm 30, I'm 35, I'm approaching 40. I want a guy, I want a family. I've done everything that they've told me to do, in these unicorns, these guys that I'm supposed to get, the knight in shining armor isn't showing up. And you end up pricing yourself out of the market when you chase excellence. Again, the high value guys that you want. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was very interesting. Pricing yourself out of the market.
Yeah. Because your options decline. If you're, when women price themselves out of the market, they're into their 30s by this point. They've made good money. They probably have their own house, their own car. They can travel when they want, take vacations when they want. If they want to go with the girls to Europe for a month in the summer, it's very easy for them to do. They don't need anybody's permission. They've got the financial resources to do that. But guys don't want a mid-30s career-driven boss girl, generally speaking. Let me just clarify. The guys that these women want, the first choice that they want, don't generally choose those women. That's why they end up settling, and they settle for second or third best. And that's why I think we have such a high divorce rate, is because women are settling for guys that they don't have strong, genuine, burning desire for.
Yeah. And I have some friends who are with men where they obviously wear the pants in the family, and right, they do whatever their wives say or partners say.
And that turns women off at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, it's true. Can people fix it if they're in this kind of relationship? Alpha female, beta husband, or beta's partner?
That's a great question, Jules.
Thank you, Mika.
I don't think so. That we see these alpha male camps out there today where it's like a Navy SEAL guy or something like that. There was a YouTube video that I came across the other day. I think it was Spencer Cornelius, and he was doing some sort of a breakdown on like these alpha male camps that charge $18,000 to $20,000 to guys for a weekend. And it's funny because you see a guy with a man bun that's clearly never said no to his wife or his girlfriend in his entire life, up against somebody that looks like a Navy SEAL, and his job is to push him 50 yards in one direction, yelling, "I am a man." And it's not going to change their behavior. I don't see that modifying their behavior and changing their personality from soft, agreeable, docile to strong, influential leader over the course of a weekend for $20,000. So there's an entire market that's coming out of this that's trying to train men to be leaders and to become stronger and be men. I mean, they're legitimately pushing another strong guy 50 yards, yelling, "I am a man," at the top of their young lungs with their man bun tied back. And that's not going to change anything. They're going to feel good about it, during the weekend. They're going to get some good video footage for their social media, maybe. Nice t-shirt and, some sweat and some lost sleep. But at the end of the day, if he comes back to the house and his wife is still the strong leader, sees him as incompetent, doesn't trust him to do certain things, solve problems, balance a checkbook, she's still going to belittle him to some degree.
Wow.
Yeah. I've had some friends, I've had some women who have careers and businesses and, husbands that have done these alpha boot camps, and they've raved about them and said that their husbands came back. At least when I say there's one person that I've gotten.
And the wife probably forced them to go to it too, right? The alpha boot camp.
No, this particular one, a friend told me she did not. She said that her husband and their child, their 9-year-old, went who's a boy, and loved that it did cold plunge and all
Wait,
this
she sent her kid there?
Yeah.
Oh,
And the feedback, she said, was great. Her husband came back and she says, since he had came back, that he made decisions, he had ideas of his own, didn't rely on her. And actually, their business grew to now they're working on their third business now. And she said that they would not have gone there if he had not gone into this alpha camp. So not to
If that's
contest
a
what you're
permanent change,
saying.
then that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the
So
name of this
that's
one? I'd like
one.
to check it out.
I will get it for you.
Yeah.
Let me
wait,
write that down.
DM it to me later.
Yeah,
can
yeah.
there be like a successful relationship between an alpha female and an alpha male?
There's no such thing as an alpha female.
Oh, there isn't.
No, you'll hear this term tossed around a lot. Like, I'm an alpha female.
Okay.
I've got a PhD. I've got my own house. I climb the corporate ladder. But at the end of the day, the term alpha is connected generally with strong masculinity. When women use this term, again, they're basically taking a look at what makes a man valuable on the sexual marketplace, and then they mimic those behaviors, and then they say, well, now I'm an alpha female. And all you've done is you've turned yourself into a terrible version of a man. I could have my arm tied behind my back, and I would have no trouble in combat with a alpha female. There's no such thing as an alpha female.
Do you get a lot of backlash and pushback for
tons.
these ideas from
Oh, yeah,
women
yeah.
or men?
A bit of both, and in many cases, it's often men. It's often softer, weaker men that are trying to be the ally for, like, these are the male feminists. They're trying to be the ally for women's movements. Things like that. They think that if they're a strong enough ally and they're a pink enough male feminist, and they can romance their way into
Pink enough.
that they can romance their way into a woman's heart. But we don't see women choosing men like this. It's not a good strategy for these guys. Despite what women say, they still choose strong, virtuous, masculine men that can get shit done.
Right. Do you think, because you mentioned earlier how we have a soft, society, a soft culture in this country right now that grew up watching, televisions and sitcoms and things like that, the propaganda from, our nation. Do you also see that played in movies? Like movies, like
every male role in sitcoms, especially, the father is always portrayed as a bumbling idiot, some moron that can't do anything right, that's the butt of all jokes. Every single sitcom that you can name for the last 20 to even 30 years, I would say, portrayed the father as a bumbling moron. There's still films where you'll see male heroes that are somewhat masculine, strong, in that image, but not like we had back in the day with guys like Sylvester Stallone, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Arnold Schwarzenegger, with quick one-liners, big, strong guys that didn't take crap from anybody, sort of thing. Now you get guys in spandex suits that are small, lean, not large in stature, generally doing like Marvel comic book type of roles, stuff like that. Like Spider-Man is not the most masculine dude on the planet, when you look at him in a spandex outfit. But, these sort of comic book heroes get attention. The same guy that might have played that role 20, 30 years ago would have had a much more masculine frame, more of like a swimmer's body, whereas today he's more of like a frail, skinny guy.
wow, Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Wow.
Who's the one? Thor is. Which one is the one?
Yeah, Thor is Chris Hemsworth. That's an example of one today that stands out from that crowd. But even then, there's
Aquaman.
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 Sure. That's what's his name? That's the guy that all the gals like with the long black hair.
Jason
Momoa.
or something.
Yeah.
Momoa.
Momoa. So there's two examples of strong masculine men that still look strong and masculine. Jason Momoa played that character in Game of Thrones, who was the warlord. And that's a character that turns women on, generally speaking, right? Like you see very, very few of those roles today. They don't exist so much anymore.
I'm going to give you one person that I love that you're probably like, oh, no way. Harry Styles.
Harry Styles is a musical artist. I don't know him that well.
He dresses like he has that feminine androgyny feel.
Yeah.
I mean, the girls love him. Of course, they're teenage girls, but
yeah, right.
He comes to mind. And it's so interesting just in terms of culture, the cultural outlook, and I see it, like, I agree with a lot of the things you're saying. I also think that there are a lot of sweeping stereotypes. I have worked in international relations for a long time, and I understand why there are stereotypes. Do you get kickback for that? Because, all blondes are not dumb, right? Or all, when we make sweeping stereotypes, that's where we get into trouble as well.
Yeah, people don't like binaries, black and white sort of areas. I think it's just easier to find convenient categories that make sense. And it's like, you can look at people and you can put them in very simple categories, but they don't like that. They want a broad spectrum of, there's Harry Styles, who's an attractive man, but he's also kind of somewhat feminine. But that existed, back in the day as well, too. When I was younger, there was artists like
Mick
Boy George.
Jagger.
Yeah, Boy George, Mick Jagger, George
David.
Michael.
Boy George, no. But yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, a lot of the girls liked Boy George. Like there was pictures of Boy George and George Michael on posters on the girls' walls, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that. I love that. And, just having this conversation with you, yesterday we spoke to Dr. Nadine Macaluso, who is the wife from The Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
And just understanding her situation with and you've heard of the movie Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Of course,
yeah. Jordan Belfort, he would be considered toxic masculinity. Mm-hmm. And if that is such a thing, how do you stay out of relationships like that? Or what are those intuitive things for women and men that you hear or feel or see that you need to run the other direction right now? You don't put a ring on it. Don't just run. What would be those top of your mind?
There's this interesting notion of women running to the bad boys, right?
Yeah.
And
I like that.
There's, of course, yeah. And there's
That's
this
my thing.
Yeah, right. And there's this concept of hybristophilia, which only exists with women being attracted to bad boys. There's no, it doesn't work in the reverse with guys being attracted to inmates, for example. So hybristophilia is essentially, you get killers. Like you'll have people that'll be incarcerated. For example, there was that kid that, rented a van, drove over a bunch of people. You get these school shooters. And interestingly, women who did not give them any attention, and one of the reasons why they protest and they behave this way is because they don't know how to deal with rejection in society. They didn't learn how to, deal with difficulties in their life. So they just have a hissy fit and they'll go and get a gun and shoot up a school or something like that. But these women that gave them no attention prior, when they were free men, now are sending them their panties in the mail to them while they're incarcerated in jail, telling them they want to have their babies. Oh,
this is a real thing. Wow.
Look it up. Hybristophilia. It's
I am writing this down.
It only exists with women. It doesn't exist with men. So women have a strong predisposition to want to deal with the bad guy. Evil psychologists, guess. Yeah. People like this, like any of these mass murderers, like any of these killers, like if you look them up, they all have fans, like huge fan bases that offer to have their children even though that these people are convicted killers. But it doesn't exist, again, with men. So it's something that women have a strong attraction to. Evolutionary psychologists are suggesting that it's because guys that have the capacity for violence demonstrate that they can get things done, that they can go out and hunt and kill an animal, that they can defend if there's a warring tribe that wants to invade your village and kill off, all the people that you love, sort of thing. So there's a certain degree of attraction that women have to a guy that has combat skills or has a capacity for violence. But what they really want is they want a guy to speak softly but has a big stick. That's why they like guys that can fight. That's why they like guys that go to dojos and they learn skills like jujitsu or boxing or kickboxing. Women are attracted to guys that have the capacity for violence, but they don't want, at the end of the day, the violence directed towards them. But they are strongly attracted to guys like that. So tattoos, motorcycles, dangerous pursuits, skydiving, Racing, anything that's dangerous will definitely attract women to some degree. Not always the best mate choice if you want to have a family and raise them, because these guys don't always stick around, or they might end up in jail, or they might end up dead. But there is a strong attraction that women have to these guys.
Wow.
That makes so much sense. And just me being a true crime junkie, it is so true, because they become these demagogues sitting behind the bars because they've done something horrible.
All these TV shows and movies that usually portray men in jail, they're mostly watched by women.
Yeah. No, I love that. So tell us, Rich, where can people find you?
Sure.
What are you doing? And what is your next big thing?
Yeah. Well, my website's there. It's just richcooper.ca. I think it's central to everything. So you can find my book, my podcast, my supplements, coaching if you want to book me one-on-one. The stuff that I'm mostly working on is just putting out podcasts on my YouTube channel. I love having conversations with people on different ideas. We do a show on Monday night called Ladies Night. So we have gals on the show, and we have a conversation with them about what's going on in their life and what challenges they have and what we can do to be useful. I have a co-host with that one. I do another show on Wednesdays on the same
We'd
YouTube
love
channel.
to be a part of that show, Rich.
Yeah, if you
I
wanna
think
hop
it'll
on
be
sometime.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on Wednesdays, I do my Unplugged Alpha podcast, which is basically just building on my book. There's about 120 episodes. I put out the book several years ago. It's a bestseller on Amazon. It's mostly a book for guys. I mean, I've seen some women read it that do enjoy it. There's some women that read it that don't like it, because I offer some advice in there that's contradictory to what might be in the best interest or what they're trying to accomplish. So we will always compete on the sexual marketplace. Men have different desires and interests and goals than women. Women have different desires and interests and goals than men. They will conflict. It's just always going to be that way. So I think that there's good opportunities for us to come together and have chats like this and conversations to sort of chop it up and hash out new ideas. A lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you,
We're a little
Rich.
blessed. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Guys, check out his book. And everything you need to know will be in the show notes. Get to know Rich Cooper. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe, because we love you guys. We're obsessed with you. Get obsessed with Rich Cooper as well. Thank you.
Welcome to Obsessed, where Mika, Tia, and I challenge the thoughts that limit you, where we provide the tools for transformation. Be prepared to be swept away into the raw power of obsession, unlocking secrets and stories behind the insatiable hunger for growth and change. This is more than just a podcast. This is your story. It is a manifesto for those who refuse to settle, who dare to dream, and who are relentless in the pursuit of living a great life. Get obsessed with your life.
Oh, he laughed. I was going to talk to him.
Yeah.